All right, we are now a day away from the European parliamentary election, where each country in the EU, each member state, will go to vote for their delegation to the European Parliament in Brussels and in Strasbourg. This will be a very important election, not only for the EU, but for each of the member states. This will be kind of an electoral test for the national governments in each country and kind of a sign for what can come in each of the countries going forward. Now, the elections will be held tomorrow in most countries. Some countries like the Netherlands and Ireland have already held their elections, but the results we will get for the European-wide level will be kind of finalized tomorrow and the days following. We can kind of see where each country voted, and of course I will do lots of videos in next week following these results, first on Germany, then each of the countries I followed in some of the previous videos. And so this will be definitely an exciting time for the channel and for Europe as a whole, for the whole world, because this is a very important election and this will be a very interesting result. And if we take a look at the European Union, the European Parliament, there are 7 wide political parties contesting this election, political groupings. These are political parties that run on a European-wide level. They are effectively groupings that consist of national parties with similar ideological backgrounds or platforms. And so all of these center-right parties are in one group, all the center-left are in another, from the various European countries. Now, if we take a look, we can see, of course, there's the incumbent Ursula von der Leyen. She is the current Commission president, and she's a part of the European People's Party group. This is the current largest party in the European Parliament. This is the main center-right, Christian, democratic, kind of a liberal conservative grouping, and they, along with the Progressive Alliance of Socialists and Democrats, the S&D group, form up the two kind of main parties, the two establishment center-right and center-left bloc within the European Union. Now, there's also the Liberal Alliance of the Alliance of Liberals and Democrats, known as Renew, which is currently the third largest party. There's the Greens, of course, being an ecological center-left party. There's the right-wing populist nationalist Identity and Democracy group. There's the National Conservative ECR, the European Conservative and Reformist, and then there's the kind of left-wing populist for the left group in the European Parliament. Now, these 7 groups encompass most of the national parties in the EU. However, there are some parties like the Five Star Movement in Italy, for example, that sit as non-attached members. They are not a part of one of these groups. They kind of sit as independents without a political faction within the European Parliament. And these parties together do constitute a significant bloc. Of course, are not one bloc, but a significant amount of seats within the European Union. Now, if we take a look at the results for 2019, we can see that the EPP and the S&D, the two establishment main parties, suffered historic losses. They were able to hold on to first place, with the EPP winning 21% and the S&D winning around 18%, but they did suffer significant losses in most countries and overall a number of seats on the European-wide level. Now, the Liberal Renew Europe grouping was able to win a strong third place finish. A lot of that was due to the fact that Emmanuel Macron's party in France first contested this election, winning around 23% of the vote, in France being the second largest country. And this, presence of a strong liberal party in France was able to propel Renew Europe, the Alliance of Liberals and Democrats, the ALDE group as it was called back then, into third place. It's second place in France, which gave them enough seats to be third place Europe-wide. Now, the Greens were also able to have a strong result. They won fourth place, and this was largely due to the German Green Party doubling its support, going to 20% of the vote, a strong result in Germany, the biggest country. And then you have the right-wing populist Identity and Democracy group. This was kind of founded by Matteo Salvini's Lega, with other parties, kind of the right-wing populist nationalist political parties within Europe, and they were able to win fifth place, kind of coming from the old European Alliance of Nations and Freedom. Now, there's the ECR, which is the more kind of in between both the ID and the EPP. They're more conservative than the EPP, more Eurosceptic, but not maybe as nationalist and populist as some of the ID parties. They consist of the Polish Law and Justice Party and formerly the British Tory Conservative Party. They came in sixth place, followed by the European United Left. Now, what's important to note about 2019 is, of course, the election was somewhat hectic. Britain had voted to leave the European Union in 2016, but they did not formalize it soon enough, so they actually contested the 2019 elections, and because of that, they were able to elect seats to Brussels, and then after they left, these seats were taken away. This is why the results are somewhat difficult to calculate, because you had around 60 at least members of the European Parliament that effectively left, and you had certain parties that performed very well in the UK, and when the UK left, their overall results kind of shifted somewhat, And so these are the results from this election that included the United Kingdom. But of course, without the United Kingdom, the results are going to automatically shift some. But we can kind of expect somewhat of a similar result. All these parties will be contesting again. There might be a new political party formed out of some of the non-attached members, the non-inscrits, but this is kind of where it was in 2019. If we take a look at the map, we can see that there was a very interesting picture. Most of Eastern Europe and, of course, Germany went for the center-right EPP, the European People's Party. Much of Eastern Europe is kind of dominated by the traditional establishment parties, and a lot of it also has to do with the fact that the EPP or the S&D might be more conservative or right-wing, or might be more traditional and aligned towards the political climate within Eastern Europe, and that's why they do as well, despite the fact that Hungary is a lot more maybe conservative or nationalist than a country. In Western Europe, the Fidesz party was a part of the EPP, but within Fidesz, or within the EPP rather, they were more right-wing, and that actually led to them being expelled from the EPP or suspended from the EPP group. Now, within Western Europe, we had some interesting results. Both France and Italy went for the ID group, the National Rally in France, and Lega in Italy won the elections nationwide in those countries. Those were big victories for the right-wing populace. A big victory in Italy, a huge increase in support for Lega, and in France, the National Rally was able to hold on to first place. Now, Spain and Portugal stand out here in the Iberian Peninsula as the two countries that basically were victories for the Socialists and Democrats. This is the only kind of red you see on this map. There were also parts of Ireland and the Netherlands that went for the left-wing parties. The Party of Labor under Frans Timmermans in the Netherlands was able to win a kind of surprise victory, but we can see mainly the Iberian Peninsula was the kind of show of force for the Socialists and Democrats, the S&D group. And of course, Poland, we see a victory for the ECR. The Law and Justice Party is not a part of the EPP. They are a part of the ECR, which was formerly of the British, dominated by the British Conservatives, which are now completely gone out of the EU. And of course, Britain, of course, we had the Brexit Party led by Nigel Farage, which was non-attached, not a part of a political group. And so this is why the UK is kind of gray here. But of course, all of these seats we see a strong showing for the non-attached, a strong showing for the Liberals, and even the Greens. Once the UK left the EU, all of these seats were gone. And that's why the overall shift in positions and power within Brussels was slightly changed after this result. Now, I want to take one final look at what the polls show. And the polls are kind of difficult because there are no European-wide polls, but there are kind of the calculations of each of the national polls combined. So it is not completely accurate. There are huge margins of errors because you're calculating so many different countries voting with so many different issues, so many different unique political environments, and there can, of course, be a lot of issues. There can be situations where one party Europe-wide wins the popular vote, but because of the systems in certain countries, they don't win the largest amount of seats. That has happened before. Now, if we take a look at the polls, we can see that the EPP is clearly leading in the polls. They are going to slightly drop some, as expected. They will probably lose some support, but they are going to hold on to first place. The Socialists and Democrats will also maybe lose some support, but hold on to second. Now, what's going to happen is once we get to third place, there's going to be some kind of changes. The Liberal grouping is going to drop definitely. They did drop after Brexit, but the latest polls put them at 85, 75. They are kind of neck and neck with the ECR. Now, there was a three-way race for third place between the Renew, ECR, and the ID, but the ID group recently suspended the AfD in Germany from their grouping, and that has dropped them by at least 10 to kind of 15 seats, which has basically meant that they are no longer going to be able to reach third place. And so we will have a tight race between the conservative ECR and the liberal Renew group for the third place position, followed by likely the ID group in fourth place, and the Greens after that. Now, the European Greens are going to suffer a hit because the Germans are not likely going to hold their 20% mark. Even if they get 15%, that's going to be a drop in 5 seats. That's already, a decent hit. And so the Greens will probably follow the ID group in 5th place, and then we will see or 6th place rather, and then the European United Left will come after that in 7th. So not overall too much of a change, and this won't have too much of an effect on the European Union because we can see the overall composition of power hasn't changed much. There is still a majority between the EPP, the S&D, and Renew that kind of liberal, broad, center left to center right establishment that kind of supports the European Union, supports the status quo. Ursula von der Leyen will most likely be re-elected with support with the European Parliament. The kind of commission establishment will have a majority there. There will be, of course, some shift. There will be probably an increase in right-wing populist and Eurosceptic seats and composition within the Parliament, but nonetheless, the results won't be too drastic. There won't be a complete change in the power structure within the European Union. But nonetheless, of course, these are only the polls. And of course, I will do more videos on this election when we have the results. I will first do Germany. I actually will first either do Germany or a look European-wide, and then I will do kind of a video kind of grouping together 4 countries at a time like I did some of the poll analysis. So this would be definitely an exciting result. I want to kind of give you guys this video to see where we were 5 years ago, what we can kind of expect. It's not going to be too drastic. There's not going to be, a change in the commission president probably, but it could be some interesting results on different nationwide for different countries, and we can kind of use that to see where this country is going forward in the future. It can kind of be a referendum or check on power of that country's incumbent government. But nonetheless, I wanted to do this video. It's been a while since I've done a video, been a week. I've been busy this past week, so I wanted to get one video done on the European-wide level before we have the elections. And of course, the week following the elections tomorrow, I will do definitely some more covering the results. So I hope you all like this video. And if you do, please like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you all for watching.